It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. It's primer time to put on the base layer ahead of Arkansas's big game against the Auburn Tigers. Bobby Petrino trying to position himself better for the head coaching job permanently, and a job that Hugh Freeze really needs to win. We're going to bring on Nathan King from Auburn Undercover, and we're going to have Kevin Bohannan as well, and we'll talk about Arkansas coaching search also and take your questions. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back out on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
Nearly 6,000 vehicles at Crain Automotive Team, crainteam.com. Check them out. It's fun to just peruse, see what's out there. 16 locations in Arkansas. Arkansas basketball getting started tomorrow night, Friday night, 7 o'clock with an exhibition game against Cincinnati. If you want more on that, check out our show from Monday where we talked to Connor Goodson and break down some of that stuff. And then getting right back at it with a Monday exhibition game against Memphis at the FedEx Forum in Memphis. That's scheduled for 8 o'clock. You can watch both of these games. The Cincinnati game is on SEC Network Plus. The Memphis game is on ESPNU. And then we're at it full go Monday, November 3rd, Bud Walton Arena. So they get a week after that first exhibition. And, of course, a big one against Michigan State on Saturday, November 8th in East Lansing, 6 o'clock game. So basketball season right around the corner. Some interesting stuff going on with football. But, yeah, you'll get your chance to, if you haven't seen Darius Acuff or Malik Thomas or Isaiah Sealy, some of those freshmen, and of course all the newcomers that have come in and the returning guys, it's a really intriguing team. I think there's a lot of people that think this team has a chance to do something really special. You want to talk coaching search a little bit? The AAC is an interesting conference to look at. When you look, like I've been looking across, see what's going on, Sun Belt and Mountain West, all these different conferences and stuff. But like really, it's the teams in the AAC that are like that have the guys that you would say, man, this might be a candidate here. You've got Alex Golesh at South Florida. They're 6-1 right now. Recently just beat North Texas, who has Eric Morris, who is also 6-1. Golesh, obviously the connection there, his wife from Greenwood. I was watching him the other day, and I noticed he had a wedding ring on his right finger, and I was like, wonder where they wore wedding rings in Russia in its right finger. So that's kind of a nod back to his home country where he was born. Obviously, John Summerall's a name that we've talked about a lot, a guy that I really like, 6-1 at Tulane right now. Ryan Silverfield was just beaten by UAB. And Alex Mortensen, I'm not saying Alex Mortensen's a candidate, but good for Alex Mortensen. He was always one of my favorite guys. I'll never forget one day when this was like 2003 or something, 2004, very early in my career. And I get a phone call, and it's Chris Mortensen wanting to talk about his son, Alex. Rest in peace, Chris Mortensen. But that was really cool. I called all my buddies and told them, but it's good to see Alex doing well. He was at Arkansas, left Arkansas, and went to Sanford, I believe, and then came back. Well, you didn't see that very often at the time, a guy leaving and coming back. But guy that I always follow, and he was at Alabama a long time. But anyway, Memphis did lose. They're 6-1 now. Ryan Silverfield's a guy that's been talked about a little bit. We talked about Eric Morris, of course, as a potential candidate. I got to say, and apologies if you can hear it, there's a blower going on next door, but we got to fight through it. I've got to say, I asked people last week about Bobby Petrino. How do you feel about him? And in the comments on the YouTube page, you can go and look at it. I swear it's 10-1 people in favor of Bobby Petrino. Now, I think he needs to win some games. It starts here against Auburn. Mississippi State's obviously very big. Both of those home games are incredibly huge to his bid to be the permanent head coach. And probably needs to win one more, and then we're having a discussion about it. But the fans, there are some that are staunchly against it. No question. But the fans are largely, and I would say overwhelmingly in his corner. And I think a lot of fans want to win games. Even though Arkansas is 2-5, they want to win. And winning means Bobby Petrino probably is a very strong candidate for the head coaching job. Rhett Lashley's kind of, denied interest in the Arkansas job, which is what you do this time of year. Dan Mullen went to another level and said 0.0 interest in Arkansas. But SMU is 5-2 this year, so they're on a track. Make no mistake, it's important to win games in the year that you're getting hired, especially if you're, a G5 coach, but even SMU, coming a couple of years ago from the G5 level. But Rhett Lashley, 5-2 right now, went to the college football playoff last year from Springdale. He's a guy that's got a lot of support in the state. There's a lot of big money people that want to see it go that way. GJ Kinney has kind of gone the opposite way. Texas State never did anything before he got there. I'm talking like 1, 2, 3 win seasons, but they're still just 3-4 this season. That's probably not going to excite Arkansas fans enough to see a guy that went 8-5, even though what I just mentioned about Texas State's history, but to go 3-4 this year, that probably puts a damper. There's been, a lot of talk about Kenny Dillingham. That would be a long shot. Like, Arkansas has got their crap together. They've got the advanced scouting department. They've got the money. They've got the NIL and all that stuff. And Arizona State, which, kind of the rumor is that they're not really been there in the way that he wants them to be there. That's kind of the discussion, But still an extreme long shot to get a guy like that to Arkansas. But there are people that are very interested in getting that kind of stuff done. You know who I'm talking about. Let's see, Minnesota and PJ Fleck has been the latest rumor. Now, I have reached out to people in the know, and they say that there's not been any kind of contact with that just yet. But if there did, if there was, then maybe you would have something like Drake Lindsey returning back to Northwest Arkansas. Certainly. Obviously, the Lindsey families they're big Razorback fans. Like, that's no secret. They are. The last basketball practice that I went to, Lindy Lindsey was there, for example. They're still cheering on the Hogs. But Drake does go to Minnesota and is having success there. They're 5-2 this year. But some of the discussion has PJ Fleck done everything that he can at Minnesota at this point? 11-2 in 2019, back-to-back 9-win seasons in 21 and 22. Kind of, 8-5 last year, 5-2 this year. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that's kind of the talk going around. And nobody has really shot that down as a possibility that I've talked to. Tony Elliott's another name that's come up recently, another Power 4 sitting head coach. He was at Clemson and they were having a lot of success. They really haven't been the same since he left there as offensive coordinator. It's amazing, though, like when you bring up Rhett Lashley or you bring up somebody that was OC at Clemson, everybody's like, here's Chad Morris again. Like that's all the same or something. It's not. But, with Elliott, again, it's about timing. Like, this season he enters on the hot seat. They went 3-7, 3-9, 5-7. Now suddenly they're 6-1. They put it all together. It's all about timing. And now suddenly he's a hot commodity. And a guy like Jamie Chadwell, who a few years ago everybody would have been dying to get Jamie Chadwell at Arkansas, but now they're like 3-4 at Liberty, so not as intriguing. Another one, Kane Womack, I think is an interesting candidate. He's younger at 38 years old. He has been a head coach, but he left that position at South Alabama to take the defensive coordinator job at Alabama. He went to the University of Arkansas. I think he spent 2 years here. His dad was defensive coordinator. I remember him. He played fullback. He was a walk-on fullback here. But, he's a guy that I think is intriguing. He's an intriguing candidate. He's not a sitting head coach, but has been a head coach. Didn't get fired, just left for what might be a better job. I've heard people talk about Curt Cignetti still, like that's even a possibility. Like he just signed a huge contract for $11 million with a massive buyout. That's like the time to get him was when he was at James Madison. The coach at James Madison right now is Bob Chesney. By the way, he's 48 years old. They are 6-1 this year. They went 9-4 in his first year. He was also at Holy Cross, had a lot of success. 2022, they went 12-1. He was at Assumption before that. In 2017, they went 11-2. 2015, they went 11-2. He's got a pretty long head coaching record for a guy that's just 48 years old, but not on this level. He's from Pennsylvania. I'm just saying but Cignetti was kind of the same way. When I went back and brushed off the coaching search hot board that I put together in 2023, when I thought Sam Pittman, there was a good chance he would get fired and had that ready to go, Curt Cignetti's name is on there, but he's at James Madison. Mike Elko's name is on there. John Sumrall's name's on there. I always think about Lane Kiffin, if Arkansas had fired Chad Morris a year earlier, Lane Kiffin was at FAU for a number of years having success. And then suddenly it's okay, now it's time to go get Lane Kiffin. And, there's a couple of schools that want him, Arkansas and Ole Miss. Before, where was the interest in Lane Kiffin? Why wasn't it there? Why did it just happen in that one moment? So you got to strike at the right time. That's the bottom line. I thought we might go over some of the picks for this week a little bit earlier than we normally do in the show. So, yeah, let's do the wager.
Arkansas's Fab Five for Bet Saracen.
Dude, you ever bet on bowling?
Only if I'm in the tournament.
So you bet on the other team, right?
Hey, this aggression will not stand, man.
Who's got a lock for Sunday? I need to bring home the bacon.
Not sure about you, but I take comfort knowing those dudes make their plays on Bet Saracen.
Arkansas's favorite sports betting app.
Who is that guy?
All right, it's time for the Bet Saracen Wager Wagon. I would like to mention real quick, if you go to Bet Saracen, there's a link below. If you're on YouTube, there's a link below, and you can go to Bet Saracen. You got to click that link, and you use the promo code BIDDY125, all together, capital B, BIDDY125. And if you put $25 on your first bet, you'll get $125 in bonuses. So bet 25, get 125. Use the link below and enter the promo code capital B, lowercase IDDY 125. Okay, so right now we are 24-15-2 overall in our picks. We went 4-2 last weekend. For some reason, I picked 6 games. This weekend, I'm going to pick 4 just to balance it out because there's a couple of games that I kind of want to stay away from. We're 5-2 picking Arkansas games so far. So Ole Miss at Oklahoma. That's Oklahoma minus 5.5. I am taking the Sooners in this one. I'm seeing just a little bit of a downward trend for Ole Miss. I'm not necessarily sold on the competition. I think, Oklahoma had a bit of a hiccup against Texas, but I just got a feeling about this one. I like Mateer. I just think being at Oklahoma at minus 5.5, I don't know. I just saw that, and I was just like, yeah, I really like Oklahoma in this one. So I'm taking the Sooners, at minus 5.5. Alabama is minus 12 at South Carolina. I've been picking against South Carolina all year long and have been winning. They started off the season. The only thing that's been impressive to me about South Carolina is they started off the season 13th nationally. Drastically overrated. I kind of think this is the end of the road for them. They have just been tanking, and I like Alabama by 3 touchdowns in this one, actually, on the road at South Carolina. But what have they done this year, aside from come in with a bunch of hype? Tennessee, minus 9 at Kentucky. I'm taking the Vols in this one, a little bit of a bounce-back game. Kentucky's just not very good. Kentucky has surprised me at times. They took Texas into overtime, which Texas is the hardest team to figure out in the conference. I mean, Texas has been very, I think Texas obviously is even overrated at 21st, but they've got that name, Texas, so I guess they get that. But anyway, I like Tennessee at Kentucky -9. Ended up talking a lot about Texas and the Tennessee-Kentucky pick. And then, of course, Auburn at Arkansas at -1. This started out on Bet Saracen as Arkansas +1.5, and now it's Arkansas -1. I think it comes down to who has the better quarterback. Arkansas is in a much better situation than is Auburn in that category. I think we'll probably see a different quarterback finish out the game. Maybe it'll be Deuce Knight, the 5-star freshman, but to me, that's what it comes down to. That was a kick in the pants when I saw that Cam Ball was out for this game. Big news losing Cam Ball, because you were getting to a situation like where Arkansas had 2 defensive tackles who could actually, play and had a chance to compete against Texas A&M. 2 defensive tackles in that game. And now they're going to get Solly back. Okay, that's huge. They can rotate him. And now they're without their best defensive tackle in Cam Ball. Not that like any of those guys have been exceptional. It's just like I've seen people say like stuff like, well, good. He hadn't been playing good. I don't know if you guys understand what is after them. Like, nothing against those guys. They're just there's a gap. So, but anyway, Auburn's without their starting center. They may be starting a 17-year-old at center who's going to be a good player, but he's 17, starting on the road in the SEC. So maybe that kind of washes out there. But I just think it comes down to the better quarterback. I think you're probably going to see Auburn put up the most points that they have against a SEC team this year, and I think they're probably going to give up the most points that they've given against any team this year when they face the Hogs. So I'm staying away from Vandy, Missouri. I'm staying away from Texas A&M, LSU. Just don't know what to think on those games. So anyway, that's our picks for this week. Again, Biddy 125. That's capital BIDDY 125. If you're listening on a podcast or something else, just go to the YouTube channel and you'll see the link. You'll need to click that link and enter that promo code to get $125 in bonuses for a $25 bet on your first bet. Got to be on your first bet. All right. I always look at different matchups with these games. On Monday's show, I usually do a very basic look, like what's their passing offense, what's their total offense, what's their scoring offense, and same thing on defense and stuff. But I look a little bit deeper into it for the Thursday primer show. And I think one of the big things with this one is going to be turnovers. We'll talk to Kevin Bohannan. We always do penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries, decisions, and key moments, making your opponent pay for mistakes, those keys to victory. But in this one, I think it's especially important. Arkansas has not forced a turnover in 3 games, which is wild. They are one of the worst turnover teams in the conference, near the bottom. There's a lot of teams that rank at 10th, but Arkansas is near the bottom. Auburn has only turned the ball over 3 times all season. So something's got to happen. Like they say, turnovers come in bunches. I think that happens for teams giving the ball away and for teams taking the ball. So we're going to find out, is Arkansas just horrendous at forcing turnovers, or have they been a little bit unlucky? And is Auburn just exceptional at protecting the football, even though they're bad everything else on offense? They do a really good job protecting the football, or are the floodgates going to open in this one? It's supposed to be rainy, so maybe that could play a role in it, but I don't guess it's supposed to be the downpour that it was last time. But that's something to really watch in this game, the turnover battle, because Arkansas, is Arkansas just going to go a 4th game without forcing a turnover? I mean, that's been the thing that we've looked at. It's really defined this season, because there's so many times where you're like, man, if they could just force a turnover, they just get a play right here. That's been what's defined this season. And then conversely, on the other side of the ball, fumbling in key moments. 3 fumbles against Tennessee, fumbling in the red zone against Memphis, fumbling on that final drive against Ole Miss. That has cost Arkansas dramatically this season, and may ultimately be why Sam Pittman's not here anymore. So, yes, Auburn is first in the SEC right now. First in the SEC with 3 lost turnovers. Gained, Auburn's middle of the pack. There's nothing outrageous one way or the other, and Arkansas is near the bottom of the SEC. but Auburn's just middle of the pack. Sacks, Auburn does a pretty good job getting to the quarterback. They're averaging 3 a game. As we know, Arkansas gave up some sacks last week. Arkansas hasn't been that good a sack team, just 1.57, even though Quincy Rose at one point was leading the SEC in sacks. Third down conversions, Auburn not very good, as you would expect, just 36.84%. Arkansas has fallen just below Vanderbilt to second place in that category at 55%, which is still an outstanding number. Opponent third downs, Auburn doing a great job there. Not as good as Texas A&M. Texas A&M still at 23%, but Auburn at 31%, which is fourth in the SEC. Arkansas is dead last at stopping opponents on third down conversions at just 44%. It's going to be a big part of this game. TFLs, Auburn obviously does a good job. Arkansas has not been that great. They're lower middle of the pack, but last game they only had 2 TFLs the entire game. You have to do a better job at getting to the quarterback if you want to force turnovers. You got to pressure them, force them into mistakes, force them into bad throws. Let's see. Yeah, TFLs, Arkansas just middle of the pack in that category. All right, we're going to go to Nathan King. So Auburn does what Arkansas did. Was it last fall camp or was it last? I think it was last spring, maybe the last 2 springs where they practice in the morning. But Auburn does it in the season. I think Arkansas did this last season. I think they practiced in the morning last season, which was great. I can't totally remember that if they did that last season, but they did at some point. But Auburn does that since Hugh Freeze has been there. They practice in the morning. So Nathan King is at Hugh Freeze post-game stuff. So we had to pre-record this morning. So let's go to that segment right now and get a little bit of insight on the Auburn Tigers. To tell you about our friends over at Ozarks Go. If you're looking for fast, reliable internet service in Northwest Arkansas and parts of Oklahoma and ever expanding, you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. Find out if they're in your area. As I've mentioned before, I never have to unplug my router. It has worked consistently for me for 4.5 years, so I give it my stamp of approval. Several different tiers of internet service. Not going to jack your rate up in year 2. Nathan, how's it going, brother?
Doing pretty good. Always exciting here in Auburn. Never a dull moment.
Yeah, this is an important game, I think, for both coaches with Hugh Freeze and being on the hot seat and Bobby Petrino vying for the permanent head coaching job. What are your thoughts overall just about that dynamic going into this game?
Yeah, it feels like a job interview on both sides, right? I mean, at least from the outside looking in, obviously you and Arkansas people know this much deeper, but the Arkansas side of things and the Bobby Petrino side of things, it's kind of felt like they were going to do this. It kind of felt like he was going to become the interim head coach for a long time. The past couple years he's been there, and it always kind of felt like there was an opportunity that maybe he would take over as head coach. Maybe that was the plan. Obviously, I don't necessarily know that. And then on the other side of things, I mean, Hugh Freeze, we've reached a boiling point. I mean, this is easily the most frustrated fans have been with him in his time at Auburn. And again, if you just kind of looked at what they've done on the field, their 4 straight losses, you would say, all right, well, they were in all those games, and they actually had a legitimate opportunity to win basically all those games, I would say, except for the Texas A&M game. But it's just the way things have transpired, and mainly it's the ineptitude on offense. The fact that you're in year 3 now and this group just looks so disorganized. You're in year 3 and your quarterback is dead last in the SEC in QBR. Just lack of discipline, confusing game plans, confusing play calls. And even when they do have opportunities to win games, as Hugh Freeze said a couple weeks ago, I thought this was just kind of, damning on this team. He said, look, we find more ways to lose games than we do win them. And it's like, when you're saying that in week 8 of year 3, nobody claims to know what John Cohen is thinking. Is Hugh Freeze, 1 loss away from being fired? One would think that you can't go lose to Arkansas and an interim head coach. I would certainly think that, but we'll obviously see how patient they are with him. But there's no way around it. This has reached a really, really sort of untenable point for Hugh Freeze. People are definitely getting really frustrated, and this season was expected to be so much better.
It's incredible how things have gone at Auburn, because he has had so much success at Ole Miss and at Liberty also. And I don't know, I guess it seemed like he would have had a lot of success there at Auburn too. But obviously, 6-7, 5-7, and a 3-4 start this year. Not obviously what Auburn fans expected when he was hired. So what's the latest right now with the Auburn injury report? Arkansas got some pretty bad news with finding out Cam Ball is out for this one. What's going on with Auburn?
Yeah, kind of on the flip side on the line of scrimmage from Cam Ball. Connor Lew, we already knew this. It had nothing to do with the injury report, but Connor Lew is Auburn's starting center, their best offensive lineman by a significant margin. Suffered a torn ACL in the Missouri game last Saturday, and obviously that's a big blow to them. He's also a team captain, and so now actually you have 2 team captains for Auburn in the last 2 weeks that are no longer going to be on the field. Now, Damari Alston, the running back, left the program entirely, which is a completely different story. But obviously, Connor Lew will still be, with his team, just not on the field. That's the one to really circle. Now, is Arkansas able to take advantage? I know this has been a very gettable run defense. You just mentioned it's going to be it's a actively thinning defensive line for them. Auburn could be starting a 17-year-old at center in this game in rainy conditions on the road in the SEC. Now, Kel Ellis is a phenomenal player. He already looks like an SEC offensive lineman. He became their backup center for a reason at only 17 years old, a reclassified 2026 recruit. It's either going to be him or it's going to be Mason Murphy, who's played right tackle for them, and they're trying him out at center this week. The only other injury to kind of look at that Auburn hoped would be back at this point is Darrell Robinson. He's a UConn transfer who had 800 yards and 8 touchdowns last season with the Huskies. Right now, he's still unavailable. Kind of had a freak injury in his leg earlier in the season. And because of that, the only reason I bring that up, their number 2 running back is a true freshman. And another reclassified true freshman, a kid named Omar Mabson from right down the road at Auburn High School, also 17 years old. He's their backup running back. And so I would expect, we saw it against Missouri, Mabson only played 3 snaps in that game. It's going to be Jeremiah Cobb like the entire way. I mean, Mabson just, he's not comfortable run blocking, and you can't really blame him. Like he's kind of thrust in this situation after Alston left the team. But Connor Lew is the one where, if I'm Arkansas fan, like pay attention to that center position. I mean, obviously Arkansas, is thinner on the defensive line. You would love to have Cam Ball in this game, but who knows how Kel Ellis is going to hold up in an environment like this.
Yeah, maybe that balances things out a little bit. What can you tell us about this Auburn defense? Obviously, they've been very stout. I don't think they've given up more than 24 points in a game this year. So what is it about it? It's interesting too when you look at these 2 teams. They got to a similar point and doing it very different ways. What stands out to you about the Auburn D?
Yeah, just really solid. This is a second-year group under DJ Durkin that they felt like could take a step forward. Look, they were already fine last year. He got a huge contract extension, a huge raise in the offseason when Ohio State was thinking about hiring him along with some other programs. And, man, that's really paid off because, like you mentioned, they would be – not that they're already not floundering because they are, but they would be in a completely dreadful spot without how well this defense has played. Really just solid across the board. The only real setback for this group was in week 1 against Baylor when Sawyer Robertson threw for 419 yards on them. And that was, brought up a lot of concerns about the pass defense, but they've responded pretty well since then. And as you mentioned, it's kind of their ability to find a way to hold you to a low amount of points. It is kind of the biggest thing that you can give to them in terms of a compliment, because even a team like Baylor, that is a crazy offense out there at Baylor. They only scored 24 points. Why did that happen? Because Auburn got timely stops in the game. They got 2 4th-and-goal stops. Look, you go to Oklahoma, they scored 24 points in that game, but their offense only got 22 because of a safety by Auburn. You hold Oklahoma to 22 on the road, you should win this game. You guys saw Texas A&M last week. You hold Texas A&M to 16 points in College Station. You have to win that SEC football game in year 3, and so that's kind of underscores the issues with Hugh Freeze. But the main thing is that this defensive front has been a lot better than we expected. Everybody knew Keldrick Falk. He's probably going to be a first-round pick. He's demanded a lot of attention. Kieron Crawford plays across from him at that buck linebacker pass rushing position. He has really come on this season, so that's kind of suspect number 1 that's improved this group. Xavier Atkins is playing at an all-SEC level at linebacker, and really this is a linebacker core that is just really, really solid across the board. Atkins is a 3-star recruit who didn't get on the field at LSU as a freshman, but DJ Durkin wanted him back when he was the coordinator at Texas A&M. Now he's making plays all over the place. Elijah Melendez is a true freshman playing at linebacker as well. And so it's just a really solid group. And I wrote about it in our Q&A. They did a good job on Taylon Green last year. Most of his yards came on that, not most, but a lot of his yards came on that 58-yard touchdown, kind of a scramble drill, threw it up. 2 interceptions. If I remember correctly, they didn't really let him get too explosive on the ground. If they have a performance like that, they're going to give themselves a chance to win. And again, up until this point, I don't. This group has shown no signs of laying down. Of course, that's what you worry about in a bad season, is the defense kind of saying, "Well, we tried and we gave it our best, but now it's time to not try as hard." Really don't see any signs of that. And so, from everything we've seen so far this season, I have no reason to believe they won't hold Arkansas a little bit below their scoring average. The problem is, you could hold Arkansas to 34, and that's still below their scoring average technically, and you have to go out and score 37 points. So that's kind of the issue here, is can your offense do enough to win a game where you feel like your defense is doing just okay?
Yeah, I think it's prime viewing when you have the Auburn defense out there versus the Arkansas offense. But let's go to the resistible force versus the movable object. This one on the other side with Auburn's offense. I remember when Jackson Arnold was being recruited, Arkansas targeted him, and I thought I saw greatness. I thought he was going to be just exceptional, and I ended up going to Oklahoma. Of course, things didn't work out. Now he's at Auburn. Why have things played out the way that they have for this Auburn offense? When we think of Hugh Freeze, we think offense, and it's been anything but that this year.
I think the biggest issue is, and it's kind of, you bring it up a lot right now with all the criticisms of Freeze. You think of Hugh Freeze in offense. The problem is you think of Hugh Freeze in offense like 12 years ago. This system is just not, it's not one that's worked at a high level for Auburn. It's not been run very efficiently. It's that RPO scheme. And the problem is you need such phenomenal quarterback play to run a good RPO. And they just don't have that right now from Jackson Arnold. And it's a system that is kind of a better idea than it's been in practice. Like, everybody looked at, this receiving core Auburn had in the offseason and all the upgrades that they made offensively, bringing in a guy like Jackson Arnold, who, like you mentioned, he has all the skills. I mean, he's a really gifted runner. He has a 5-star arm. You can see why he was such a highly rated recruit. But the issues with Arnold have been just kind of a poor sense of awareness. Auburn is dead last nationally in sacks taken. Their pass protection isn't that bad. I mean, it is bad, but it's not dead last in the country in sacks. That has sort of been the crux of Hugh Freeze saying, hey, Jackson Arnold needs to be better in critical moments of the game. It's because, and you look at the overtime against Missouri, like, you're already in field goal range when overtime starts. The last thing you can do is take a sack. On second down, They take a sack. They end up missing a field goal from 50 yards out in overtime. That would have been much closer for a guy like Alex McPherson. And so, look, it's not been mistakes. He's only thrown one interception all season, and that was against Missouri just last week. He's had some drop issues. Cam Coleman has dropped 2 surefire touchdowns this season there, which obviously they did not expect that. That's your best player at receiver. You really can't have that happen. And so it's just been an amalgamation of a lot of things. I think half of it is, look, this quarterback marriage is really not working out. This offensive line marriage is not working out. And the other half of it is, I mean, the Texas A&M game is some of the worst play calling I've ever seen in person. They do this mysterious abandonment of the run game. Jeremiah Cobb is a really good running back, really explosive. I like him a lot. They just go away from him sometimes and say, hey, Jackson Arnold, drop back 48 times. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, as I'm sure we'll get into, that's all of that has led to some quarterback questions now as we sit here in week 9.
Yeah. I know you got places to be, so I want to get you out of here with this. How do you see it playing out? If you got a score prediction, we'd love to hear that also.
Yeah, I have a tough time thinking Auburn's going to win this game. And that's, look, this competition level has come way down for them. Now they're playing a 2-5 Arkansas team, as opposed to, they've lost 4 straight games against ranked opponents. And again, from the outside looking in, that doesn't look too bad, but I still can't just trust, I can't trust this team to go out and make winning plays in critical moments of the game. And I'm just following what the head coach is saying. The head coach is getting up there and saying his team can't do that. The head coach is getting up there and saying our quarterback can't go out and make crucial throws when we need him to, and yet they're probably going to trot him out as the starter again. So it's one of these things where Hugh Freeze keeps expecting a different result, but yet nothing is changing during the week. And the game plan doesn't look too different. Jackson Arnold is still out there at quarterback, and so the other side of it is, I think Arkansas has been due. I mean, they've since Bobby Petrino has been there, and obviously you guys would know this a lot better, but it seems from the outside looking in, they've got a lot of juice. They're playing with a little bit more, and probably should have beaten Tennessee. Not sure if they should have beaten A&M, but they went blow for blow in that game. Despite the rainy conditions and how stupid this football game might look on Saturday, I just give the edge to Arkansas at home. Again, Petrino's trying to coach for a job right now, and I don't trust Auburn to make winning football plays. And if that result pans out, we'll see what we're talking about on Sunday, because one would think Hugh Freeze's job really comes into question at that point.
Yeah, could be also the beginning of the either Ashton Daniels or Deuce Knight era at Auburn as well.
Yep.
Well, Nathan, I really appreciate you hopping on with us, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Absolutely. See y'all there.
I'm little. There, I'm big. Okay. Well, just to be clear, because I saw some in the comments, I don't know if I actually picked Arkansas, but I am picking Arkansas on the Bet Saracen bets. I think I'll go like 28-24, something like that. That's not an official pick, but that's somewhere that's where I'm leaning. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. And while I'd encourage you to visit their store in person, and see all they have. They'll have all the Christmas decor out, but it's the big, wonderful new location at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas 72758. Did you also know that you can shop online with Blakeman's? You go to blakemansfinejewelry.com and you can check out all the stuff. They have delivery options as well. You can even book an appointment online. So there's a lot of great ways to shop, especially with the holiday season coming up. I encourage you to go check out our friends at Blakeman's. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. So visit them at their brand new location and shop them online. Also, it's worth a look. I was looking at some stuff on there earlier, and they do have delivery options. So that means you can go just about anywhere. We want to go to our buddy Kevin Bohannan for the latest. And Kevin, for some reason, I got you like that.
There we go.
I'm going to do this. Bada bing. There we go. How you doing, K-Bo?
Hey, doing great, buddy. Looking forward to Saturday and a little bit of cool weather coming into the Ozarks, and maybe a little rain.
Maybe a little rain again, unfortunately. Of course, like we wait so long to get a streak of home games, and it's just rain, you know. Of course, last weekend I thought worked out pretty well. You got a night game. I thought the crowd was fantastic. Arkansas just didn't get enough done. One of the things I've been talking about in this one, Kevin, was you always talk about, you know, penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries being key factors, and decision-making, key moments, making your opponent pay for mistakes, all that good stuff. But turnovers in this one, I think, are going to be really important. And it's going to be maybe a slippery ball, but Auburn doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. And Arkansas has not gained a turnover in 3 games, and it's been really bad. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, that's the big thing. And even though Auburn's offense has been anemic, they haven't given it up too much. That's the big thing. Jackson Arnold finally threw his first interception last week against Missouri. That's one of the things I pointed out is his coming out party. You know, some media has been rumbling this week. I've talked to a few people down on the plains, and like Nathan King said, they're not really confident in their ability right now to go out and perform. It's kind of, you know, similar situation looking in a mirror. You know, can Arkansas go out and stop Auburn, even though their offense hasn't been that good? So Coach Petrino said last weekend he just felt that it was coming. They got to get a turnover at some point. And turnovers are about being in the right spot a lot of the times, Trey. It doesn't happen by accident. So they can be in the right spot this weekend that they could get a turnover.
I mean, you look at Auburn's football schedule. They played 4 straight ranked teams in the SEC, and they have been dramatically unlucky. Like the Georgia game, I mean, they were about to go up 17-0 before that. They got screwed in that game, taking Missouri into overtime. And I think, as Nathan was saying, they took a sack, and you know, then suddenly it's a 50-yard field goal, you know, to win the game. I mean, just like if it can go wrong for Auburn, it just seems to have gone wrong. As you mentioned, like with Jackson Arnold, I think that there's a good chance that we see Deuce Knight in this game, 5-star freshman. But can this be Jackson Arnold's coming out party? I mean, can Arkansas keep that from happening? Because Arkansas has been atrocious on defense this year.
Yeah, and even though Auburn lost their starting center, torn ACL against Missouri, Cam Balls is going to be out for Arkansas, so Arkansas's defensive line is even thinner. Look, Jackson Arnold is athletic. He can do things when the play breaks down. 434 yards rushing without the sack. So that's a little over 4 yards a carry. Now, Jeremiah Cobb is a really good running back. He's got one of those yards per carry average that is up there towards Mike Washington's. So I think with the athleticism that Auburn has, they can move the ball down the field. It's just about the big thing comes down to decision making. Can Arkansas force Arnold to be uncomfortable, or Deuce Knight? Five-star freshman, they're freshmen for a reason. He's not playing for a reason, Trey. Is because of the grasp of the offense. But Coach Freeze is trying to get a spark going. Maybe they put him in there. And if we've seen it happen before. I remember a Kentucky game back in 2019. Lynn Bowden comes in. They were on their 8th string quarterback, and they gashed Arkansas.
You gonna bring that up?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's my job, man. I got to bring back all the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it was one of the best lines people say from the walk and talk when I say he didn't even have his best receiver because his best receiver was himself.
Yeah.
Man, those were rough times. That was a good trip to Lexington for me, aside from that actual the game. But yeah, I think with Freeze also, like when you're like talking about your job and you put in Deuce Knight and, he plays well to where fans would be like, you know what, this guy, might give us something, might have a future, and then start kind of thinking more about what the future would look like with Freeze and Deuce Knight together, so hopefully that's not a coming out party for Deuce Knight or Jackson Arnold. Let's get to your next topic. Mike Washington, he's been exceptional. I think he's had 35 carries these last couple games for, total, and has run for well over 100 yards in both games. Can that continue against Auburn? Auburn is extremely stout on defense. Yeah. If it does, Arkansas wins. I think if he goes off for a 100-yard game again, I think Arkansas wins.
Absolutely. So the good thing is Mike Washington doesn't have very many miles right now. So he has yet to hit 20 carries in a game. Yes, he had 19 last week or 2 weeks ago against Tennessee. Only 16 for 147 last week against Texas A&M. And their fronts, DJ Durkin does a really good job with stunts, twists, Texas tornadoes, whatever you want to call them, whatever vernacular you have for calling defense. But the linebackers are very good. They play well. They tackle well. That's going to be the big key for the offensive line this week, is to know where the middle linebacker is and know where the blitz is coming from. That's on Taylor Green as well. So calling out the protections, being at home helps with that because you don't have to deal with the crowd noise. So that's going to be the big thing this weekend. And Mike Washington has done better before he gets the ball. That's what Coach Petrino said the other day in his press conference, is like, look, his tracks are getting better. He's better without the ball. That's what makes him able to see, get his vision up, and break those big runs. Because that outside zone play, if you don't see it right away, but Washington's done a great job. He sees the lanes before it even happens. So that's where you get to seeing your blocks before it even happens.
I think the next one is very important about Taylor Green feeling the pressure to be perfect. And when the defense is not getting stops, sometimes you feel that. Although I do feel like the team, they're playing more as a team right now, despite the defense, causing so many issues. But do you think Taylor Green's feeling that pressure to be perfect? And I think this is important to note too, Kevin, for as great as Taylor has been, for the most part, nobody's perfect, but for as great as he's been and leading the country in total offense, he has not had that game yet where he has gone down and won it for him. Like you think back to the Tennessee game last year. Well, he wasn't even he kept him in the game, obviously, and he's kept him and put him in position a lot of times. And it was probably stolen from him against Ole Miss, that opportunity. But he has not had the game where he just willed him down the field and took a win because of Taylor Green. That hasn't happened in his career at Arkansas yet.
That's right. And I thought about this the other day, Trey, is you remember the Mike Leach offenses at Washington State. They had guys that would throw for 400 yards a year. They would pad the stats and go up and down the field. But did they really do anything that, put them on the next level or in the contention of being an award winner or be that next level quarterback that could be a first-round draft pick? Not really. Some of the guys that have developed in an air raid system, they're good at stats and all that, but could they really put the team on their back? I think that's the only thing Taylor Green is missing this year. And while there is pressure to be perfect, I believe, I think he's going to go out there and do it on Saturday. It's just that time. It's that next evolution in becoming a great quarterback as opposed to a good quarterback that can just put up numbers. You see those moments. The Heisman Trophy winners call them their Heisman moments. You see it. You can think back to all the quarterbacks especially that have won the award when it actually happened for him.
Mm-hmm.
And while Taylor Green won't win the Heisman this year, he can leave his legacy at Arkansas better by performing on Saturday and getting a win.
Let's get you out with this. I want to ask you if you think the Razorback defense can step up in this one and finally, I mean, this is one of the worst offenses that they're going to face all year.
Yeah.
And finally get some confidence going and make some plays. Can the defense step up? And what do you think about a score prediction? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of law of averages, Trey. At some point, it's going to happen. If you're in sales, for every 10 no's, you're going to get a yes. If you go in, if you're single and you go out and you ask 10 women out on a date, one of them's going to say yes eventually. That's just, I'm a law of averages guy. It's going to happen at some point. Happens in baseball. You go on a bad streak, you get a lot of strikeouts, you're going to get a hit eventually if you stay consistent with what you do. Arkansas has made changes over the last 2 weeks to where they put themselves in positions to make plays on defense. They've gotten better. The results haven't shown it, but they did against Tennessee, and Texas A&M was just a little bit better on offense last week. I think Arkansas gets a turnover this week. I believe that they feel they can do something against Auburn this week. Arkansas will end up winning the game. I've got 30-24 floating around in my head right now. I could see a 4 to 6 point win for the Razorbacks.
Okay, Kevin. Appreciate you joining us, brother. I see it pretty similar as we do sometimes.
Appreciate it, Trey.
Well, all right, everybody. Follow Kevin at Kbo Baseball Guru on X and read his content at HawgSports. Does a great job. And also when it's baseball season, he really stands out there. Appreciate you, Kevin.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, everybody. That's Kevin Bohannan. I want to tell you about our buddies over at Walker Brothers, which brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from meticulously crafted suit to the perfect faded pair of jeans, every piece in the collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience the undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, suite number 6 in Fayetteville, which is where they've been for as long as I can remember, or their brand new location. Their brand new location at 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. I'm actually planning on coming by and seeing you guys tomorrow. Time to get fitted up for some warmer clothes. It's getting a little cold outside. So check out our buddies over at Walker Brothers. Really good people, people that I've shopped with for a number of years. It's just not, men aren't always taken care of in this world. And hey, that's fine with us because we're men, right? But it's time to start dressing like a man. So go check out our buddies at Walker Brothers. Okay, questions now. I think we covered pretty much everything about this. I went back and fixed my prediction because I didn't actually make it, I guess. But let's see what questions we have from our community over on the Razor's Edge. And by the way, HawgSports is 75% off right now. Promo code HawgSearch75. That's HAWG Search 75 altogether. It's not case sensitive in this case. Westhog 21 looking ahead, he says, what amount of portal entries would you expect if Bobby was retained versus if Arkansas made an outside hire? Well, like Arkansas last year, they lost a lot of guys. They lost probably 8 or so guys that they really didn't want to lose, that they would have liked to have kept on the team. I would expect it to be a fairly similar number, I guess. But if you have coaching turnover, you're going to see a mass change. And really, to be honest, like they need a mass change anyway. Like, sure, appreciate the guys for what they do, but like they need some turnover on defense. I'm sorry, they just do. they need some turnover on defense. Offensively, it's hard to argue at all with what they've got going on. There'll be some guys that run out of eligibility, and they'll have to go get some guys. I think they've done a good job recruiting on the offensive line and bringing in guys who are younger in the transfer portal. I think they're going to be in good shape on the O-line, if everything's retained. Quarterback talked to Bobby Petrino on Wednesday about KJ Jackson. Just that, he thinks he's a future starter at quarterback. You got Braylon Russell, who's a young guy. So, and, you've got some, C.J. Brown will be back. Jaylen Brown will be back from injury. Monte Harrison. You've got weapons on offense, I think, still, and some quality offensive linemen coming up. And you'll have to add some to that, but it's difficult to say. But if you have a complete overhaul of the coaching staff, you're going to see probably a good number of guys. But the trick is, nowadays with the calendar the way it is, you're going to be able to go out and bring in guys also. Whereas before, it's really difficult to field a quality team your first year with the calendar the way it was. Sharkensaw says, given how bad the defense has been and the fact that Cam Ball is out, should the Hogs just onside kick after every score against Auburn, if not against Auburn? I don't know what would tell your defense, like, I have no confidence in you than onside kicking. But no, I don't think that you do that, especially since Auburn is not prolific on offense. Maybe that we're having a discussion. They maybe should have done it against maybe Tennessee or something. I don't know. But they actually got stops. Like, they made Tennessee punt like 5 times. Is that right? Was it 5 times? They stopped them enough times. I think so. Like, you make Auburn punt 5 times, I feel pretty decent about that. But Auburn is not a great offense. They are probably going to be starting a true freshman at center because they also have an injury up front. So maybe that balances out. I really do not like Arkansas's depth on the defensive line. Seth T. Mo says, does Auburn center being out negate the fact that Ball – yeah, I'm thinking just like me, Seth. Thorhog says, I know a lot of it depends on how these last 5 games, but in your opinion, if every head coach was given the same resources here at Arkansas, would they be better off to go with an experienced coach like Dan Mullen, James Franklin, or even Bobby, or would they be better off to go with a younger coach who has the possibility to become a great, like John Summerall or Alex Golish? So it's so hard because you just never know. Like Billy Napier, everything about Billy Napier said he was going to be a great coach, and he's fired now at Florida. You just never know. Guys, like, let's look at this. Every coach in the SEC except for Oklahoma and Alabama took over that position because the guy in front of them got fired. I think it's all but 14 teams. Is that right? Is there somebody I'm not thinking about? I mean, coaches are hired to be fired. And, yeah, you hope that you strike lightning in a bottle and you get a guy and he's there with you for 10 years. Like, Franklin was there at Penn State for 12 years. Dan Mullen had a lot of success at Mississippi State. But eventually the coach is probably going to get fired. Not 100% because there's guys, Kirk Ferentz. There's Nick Saban. But there's just not a lot of those examples. I personally think if you could go out and get a guy like Mullen or Franklin, that would be, obviously massive, huge. A guy that's I like guys that have had success a lot of places. That's one thing I like about Summerall is he did it at Troy, and now he's doing it at Tulane. Of course, Tulane was having success before he got there. Willie Fritz is having success now at Houston. I think they've only lost 1 game this season. So it's just difficult to say. I mean, I don't know if there's an answer. It's just different. You just never know. I think LSU probably thought, hiring Brian Kelly meant they were getting a proven winner who was going to come, and he hasn't quite lived up to what the standard is there. ANTI says, does the coach for next year get announced particularly quickly after the Missouri game, or would the info come out? I would think within a couple weeks. It just depends. I mean, like if it's Petrino, then we're all going to know it's Petrino. Like because he'll, have done the things that, we've talked about. But it's going to be over a week, I would think, before they name a coach, unless it's Bobby Petrino. Asking for a family member? Yeah, I mean, there's no way to know. Yeah, we will know quickly if it's Petrino. Story of the year says, is it ironic that Pittman's best O-line at Arkansas came in the year he got fired? 2021 was good too, but this one you could argue is better. Yeah, I mean, I've been really pleased with what they've done on the offensive line. I think that Eric Mateos was put in a rough situation trying to just kind of put together an offensive line in a hurry. And I've mentioned that several times before. Like, I was not sweating some of the guys that they lost on the offensive line. Just wasn't. And, I mean, getting Caden Kittler, I think, was great. Like, he's not a huge guy, but, like, he knows what he's doing out there. Like, he really has a good knack for football, and I think him and Talon are very much on the same page. Corey Robinson, I think, has been really good. And Amarian Harris, like, we haven't talked about Amarian yet, but the growth that Amarian has shown in the time that he's been here from when he was kind of thrown to the fire, he's been good. I mean, Fernando Carmona, I mean, and Kobe Branham. Like, this has been a good offensive line. Are they perfect? No. It's very difficult when Texas A&M, program like that, with the defense they have, knows that you're throwing the ball because you have no other choice, and they're going to pin their ears back and come at you, and you're going to get sacked. And Talon takes big sacks. He also, turns some of those deep drops into big runs. So it's live by the sword, die by the sword, as we've said. But I've been pleased with this offensive line. I think that they are. I said all offseason, it's going to be a better offensive line than they had last year. We just don't know how much better it's going to be. And, it could just be a little above average. But I think it's a good line. I think we put the category, this is a good offensive line. As of right now, it is. Hogzilla says, Biddy, would a concern with the AD situation make it harder to get? Yes. I mean, look what happened with Chad Morris. If Hunter Yurchek were to leave or be ousted, I hate that situation. I hate a coach is going to come in, somebody else is going to hire him, and then they're going to hire an AD, and the AD can always say, well, I didn't hire him. First sign of things going bad. Love the Hogs 0916 is Jane Frankson, a serious candidate. Also hearing some PJ Fleck news. How true is this? I talked about the PJ Fleck stuff. I have a good source on that who did not say anything. He said, to his knowledge, there's been no conversation between Arkansas and PJ Fleck. Okay, and I think he would have a pretty decent knowledge of that. Also, he didn't rule it out as a possibility. Is James Franklin a serious candidate? James Franklin is going to end up at some place like Florida or Auburn, if Auburn has a change, or LSU, or, I think that someone is going to recognize what James Franklin is as a coach and scoop him up. Whiskey Drunk says, are you able to confirm some of the Board of Trustee met with Clint Dowdle or William Morris to discuss interest level of John Sumrall? No, I'm not. Furthermore, do you find it convenient that Sumrall's name was leaked from the meeting when Dowdle also represents Alex Golish and Kenny Dillingham? I love how Whiskey's mind works. I think Sumrall's going to end up somewhere. Maybe it's Arkansas, maybe it's Auburn, maybe it's I don't think Florida, just because I think of the way that if you're a Florida fan's mind, you're like, okay, we're going after a young up and coming coach who coaches in Louisiana. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing as Napier, Pittsburgh Squealer says, what's up, T-Train? As self-proclaimed soup enthusiast, have you ever made caldo verde soup? No. The soup that I had yesterday was a tortellini kale parmesan soup. Man, it was good. It was really good. I've got some autumn pumpkin squash puree type of soup going on that I'm going to have next. I do love soup. a buddy of mine's wife also, she loves soup, and she was like, man, I could eat soup every day. And he goes, you do eat soup every day. Ozark Oinker says, can you confirm? I'll have to look up the caldo verde soup, though. I assume that's some kind of a Mexican soup. I will say I'm not a big tortilla soup, like a chicken tortilla soup. I'm not big on that. I like French onion soup. Okay. Am I saying that right? French onion soup. Yeah, I like that. Okay, but I'm not like, I don't love it. Ozark Oinker says, can you confirm that you are a leading candidate to replace Hunter Yurachek? I cannot confirm or deny that. I'm happy with the job that I'm at HawgSports. And, yeah, I'm worried about this season right now. I would never discuss another job opening. Cody 8811 says, have you taught or know anything about the new pig pen collective that is trying to start up? I've seen it around. Somebody asked about it. To be honest, like during football season, guys, like my plate just starts spilling over so much, you know, and everybody feels it. That's in my life. Everybody feels it. Like I cannot ever catch up. I'm going 110 miles an hour and I can't ever catch up, you know. But no, I haven't spoken to anything about that, but I think that's a good thing. Like, I also don't think it's a bad name. Kind of a nod to the old Pigpen message board. Villid, I'm not sure what that is. Villedi, Edward Hogg says, oh, he's answering a question. Hog Vader says, Night Train, is Danny jealous of your new friends, Connor and Kevin? Have you reassured him that you're still BFF? Yeah, Danny and I are good buddies. Good buddies. I don't know. I haven't asked Danny. Maybe I'll call him and ask him if he's jealous. Memphis Hog 901 says, if Bobby is given the job, who would be your dream coach for the D coordinator position? I don't know. Willie Robinson. We talked about Willie Robinson on Monday. Like, we gave him so much hell, and they were not bad on defense. They were upper middle of the pack in the country on defense. And I read off some of the scores, you know, in that one. But no, Willie was eventually let go in favor of Paul Rhodes. What's Paul Rhodes doing these days? I think he ended up going to Kent State. Not Paul Rhodes. What is Paul Rhodes doing? That's not who I was thinking of. It was who was the coach? Where is Paul Rhodes? Defensive analyst at Mississippi State. What is the coach's name? Somebody in the comments, please. That's killing me. The coach's name who came in and he was going to be defensive coordinator, and everything happened with Petrino, and you know, it was just kind of a disaster. Somebody's got it in the comments. Yes, Brady G11. I also love broccoli cheddar. I'll give a shout out even to Jason's Deli, who's not a sponsor of the show, but Jason's Deli broccoli cheddar. Way to go. Good job on that soup. No, I don't know who would be my dream defensive coordinator. I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry. I have not even really dove into it, but I would start looking at, you know, people that have worked with him. Oh, potato soup. Will Lennox. Potato soup is like, people might just have to start naming bad soup, like gazpacho. I'm not a fan of like the cold soup and stuff, but man, potato soup is the real deal. All right, I'm going to have to look up 2000 Arkansas football coaching staff. Somebody's got to have this dude's name. I've got captains. I mean, it's Wikipedia is the only place I know to go for this answer. Damn it. Ben Ascalisi is listed as a recruit. The first thing that popped up. Oh, Paul Haynes. Paul Haynes. Where is Paul Haynes these days? Paul Haynes, he is the cornerbacks coach for the University of Wisconsin. He's held that position since 2023. Former head coach at Kent State. I don't know why he popped in my head, but man, he did not do well at all at Kent State. 4-8, 2-9, 3-9, 3-9, 2-10. Why did they keep him into year 5 and didn't fire him mid-season even? Just let him keep on going through a 2-10 season with nothing to fall back on? What are you doing, Kent State? Okay. Horatio says, how in the world is beating Auburn going to help Bob's campaign for the head hog? I mean, he needs to win. I mean, Sam beat Auburn and State both on the road last season. I mean, I think people view this situation with Arkansas as the defense not holding up their end of the bargain, and the offense has been really pretty much outstanding almost every game this year, not Notre Dame. So I think that's part of it. And people have, you know, a memory, an idea of who Bobby Petrino is as a head coach. And, you know, when he left, he was on top of the world at Arkansas. Arkansas was. We were feeling good about Arkansas. And so that's part of it too. But the situation with the defense, people look at that, I think, and they say that's not really Petrino's fault. But, I mean, you can see the guy's press conference. Like, people are behind the guy. They just are. They're both winless in the SEC, and Aubie is in complete disarray. This game should only affect Bobby Petrino if we lose. It's not a bad point. It's not a bad point, Horatio. I mean, Petrino recently has quit at Louisville before getting fired, coached at Missouri State where he had a losing record his last year there, been OC at A&M and Arkansas. He's 20-25 in his most recent games as head coach. He's 9-9 as OC and 0-2 as interim stint with the Hogs. I just don't get the media's agenda. I don't think there's a media agenda to try and encourage BP for permanent coach. Why does the media get blamed for everything? My personal stance is that I hope that Petrino is named head coach because that means he wins a bunch of games here. I don't think that just beating Auburn and Mississippi State is going to be enough. But like beating a Missouri or a Texas or LSU on the road or two of those or something like that, that to me is just like, okay, this needs to seriously be looked at. But I don't think I talk to people in the media every day. There's nobody that's going, I swear to God, there's nobody I've talked to that's going like, I really hope it's Bobby, you know, no matter what. I really how can we portray this in a way that Bobby Petrino gets named head coach? There's nobody doing that. And I see all the guys and gals on the normal beat all the time. It's just not happening. Media gets blamed for everything. I can pick Arkansas to, you know, win 5 or 6 games or whatever, and you know, people will come at me and tell me that I'm, you know, selling them a bill of goods or that I'm a Kool-Aid drinker and stuff. Just people like to blame somebody. It's very much, and I love you, Horatio, you know that, but it's very much a straw man argument when you try to make somebody else represent something that they don't necessarily believe so you can win an argument against them when they don't even believe what you're trying to say that they believe. You know what I mean? But I do want Petrino to be the coach because I want Arkansas to pick it up and win some games. I want to enjoy the season. And I think if he's named head coach, that means that Arkansas has won some games and done some things that are unexpected. And I think you're right in saying that the loss to Auburn probably should only hurt his bid. But right now there's a lot of support for him. So losing to Auburn, yeah, I think that probably just hurts him and maybe doesn't move the needle, but the needle is also very favorable for him right now. Burgess Maximus says, Trey, does the turnover drought end with Auburn's 17-year-old true freshman center snapping in the rain? There's going to be some fumbled exchanges, possibly. It needs to end this week. 00 safety 00. Is that how you say your name? Like, is that how you want me to read it out loud? How badly does Auburn want Petrino as their next head coach? Yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas is probably the only team out there that's like sees Petrino in a light that makes them think that they would want him as the head coach. But Arkansas's relationship with Bobby Petrino is also different. Most fans out there, including I think probably you, want the next up-and-coming big-time coach, want to make that identification. Want Campbell like at Iowa State or, Fleck at Minnesota. Those guys were hired from G5 level programs and have had success. There's plenty of examples of guys that, that look like they would be really good hires and had Scott Frost's example, had great success at UCF, won a mythical national championship, as they claim, and went to Nebraska and was just awful. Like looked stupid. Like Scott Frost looked stupid at Nebraska, and they kept sticking with him. They wanted him to be the guy so bad. You had that game in Ireland where there was like a 90% chance of them winning the game, and he sealed his fate by onside kicking for no reason at all. The game was basically over, and he onside kicked, and just to I don't know why you would do that. Because they're not expecting it. You already have the game in hand pretty much. And they came back. I can't even remember who they were playing, but they came back and beat them. And that cost him his job there after they had stuck with him longer than they should have. But he looked like a can't-miss candidate for them. From Nebraska lore, a lot of success there. All of the things. Success at UCF, and then yeah. But he also made a huge mistake by not leaving UCF and sticking around there to coach them. It's a lot of – you can't – when you have a job like that, you can't stick around and coach the bowl game. You just can't. Hogtalica, Petrino's offense at Arkansas this year, minus the fumbles, which were a staple of the Pittman era, is as good an offense as Petrino has ever had. Yeah. This defense is unfixable. Why does Petrino get the blame if he can't fix the defense and win games? That's another good point. Shouldn't whether he gets the job or not depend more on the vision for the program, the offense? Yeah, I think that's the other argument. I think probably more people have that argument, Hogtalica, than Horatio, even though he wants to blame us. Fat Hog says, of all the coaches on our hot board, who would you fear the most to play against? Fear the most to play against. You guys know that I think John Summerall is going to be a really good coach. Somebody's going to end up being, a really good coach out of this group. Alex Golesh has done some impressive things. I would hate to play South Florida. Kenny Dillingham is on that list also. I don't know. I think there are a lot of interesting candidates. You just never know. It's kind of like with a quarterback. You think you go through all of spring football, you go through all of fall camp, you never hit the guy, and you have this quarterback battle. You never hit him, and you roll him out there for game day because this guy's obviously the right pick, and the bullets are flying live, and he sucks. And you're like, oh, we picked the wrong quarterback. The same thing can happen with a coach when you you drop him in a different situation. That's why I always think it's good to have a guy that has been at a couple of stops and has had success. Out of the guys that I think are realistic candidates, John Summerall has had success at 2 locations now. Rhett Lashley is doing things at SMU that haven't been done before. I wouldn't be opposed to a lot of the guys on there. Like having a fresh start, I get that mentality also. I also get the intrigue with bringing Bobby Petrino back. That's it. Appreciate everybody for hopping on with us. Visit crainteam.com. They've got almost 6,000 vehicles, 16 locations in Arkansas. Bet Saracen, if you're first time registering at Bet Saracen, use the link below on our YouTube channel. Enter the promo code BIDDY, capital BIDDY, 125 all together. And when you put $25 down on your first bet, you'll get $125 in bonuses. 25 for 125. Pretty cool deal. Visit our buddies at Walker Brothers. Start dressing like a grown-up man. as I say, like, the world doesn't always take care of men, but we don't care because we're men. So start dressing like a man. Maybe that should be their new slogan. And Blakeman's. You can shop online, BlakemansFineJewelry.com for your holiday gifts, or check out the brand new location in Rogers. It's an outstanding store. So we appreciate all of our sponsors, Ozarks Go as well, which I don't know if you notice sometimes our guests get a little glitchy because they don't have Ozarks Go. You notice how nice and smooth this internet has been. We're streaming in 1080p without a hitch. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. Thanks for all the questions. We'll be back with you guys on Saturday from Razorback Stadium, hopefully talking about a win on the walk and talk. I have my chest out nice and big if they do win. I may have some residual from the Halloween costume. Wait, when is the game? When is Halloween? It's not this week. Okay, next week. Oh, my gosh. That's how far, like, I've been thinking about my Halloween. We're having people over. We're having a Halloween party. So that would be next week. All right, everybody. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. But we'll be walk and talk on Saturday from Razorback Stadium. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. If I can get to my closing screen, I can quit rambling here, and it'll look a lot smoother. We'll catch you next time.